Welcome to each of you this evening. My name is Matt McKiff.
And I'm Rachel.
And we are from St. George, Utah. We are pleased to welcome you to this special virtual Little Philmont as part of our Vision 2020 conference. It is sponsored by the Vanguard Scouting Association.
We have a wonderful, experienced faculty that you will become acquainted with this evening. And we hope you thoroughly enjoy our time together. Most importantly, we hope this Little Philmont will help each of us be better prepared to bring the wonderful program of scouting to more Latter-day Saint young men and women throughout the world.
If you're having any technical difficulties, please email info@vanguardscouting.org, and we will have someone contact you and help you with your issues. For those of you who speak Spanish, bienvenidos a todos. Si prefieren español, se pueden incluir preguntas en la chat programa y los podemos contestar. Hay dos de nosotros que hablamos español y podemos comunicar con ustedes. We began our program this evening with a special rendition of the Philmont hymn by the United Air Force Chorale. The invocation will now be given by Wayne Bishop of Pleasanton, California. After the invocation, we will have a special flag ceremony, and then we will turn the time to Charles Dahlquist, Chair of the Vision 2020 Little Philmont.
Color guards assemble. Color guards advance color. Color guard present colors. The audience will please join me in repeating the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
2. Color guard dismissed.
Well, what a wonderful way to start the program. Welcome to everyone. I'm Charles Dahlquist, chair of this wonderful virtual conference, and I welcome all of you from all over the country and outside of the country as well. We have a total of, I think, I noted down 687 registrants. And so welcome to all of you tonight. We have a wonderful faculty. As most of you knew or know, this was originally scheduled to be held at Philmont on the 13th of June, beginning on the 13th of June, but with the COVID-19 pandemic, all of a sudden we needed to scramble a little bit. And even before things or decisions were made at Philmont, we decided that it would be best to hold this in a virtual setting. And I will tell you that our faculty was absolutely sterling in scrambling, hurrying with their presentations, and you'll find that we have a wonderful, wonderful faculty. Let me take just a minute and introduce you to each of them. Their biographies are in your participant packet, so you can get those online. And the first one is Amy Hutcherson. Amy currently serves as a BSA membership growth coach and is advisor for our course this year. Amy's new to our team, and if you don't know her, you are going to love her. She was on the video that we saw from Philmont. Amy also enjoys volunteering with her boys in scouting. She served as a Cub Scout den leader and venturing crew associate advisor, and is currently an assistant scoutmaster for an all-girl troop in Grapevine, Texas. Next are Mark and Nettie Francis. Mark's worked for the BSA for 20 years, has been a Scout executive, national growth coach, director of Latter-day Saints Scouting Relations, and is currently the Scout executive of the Far East Council. For the time being, he's running the council by Zoom from about 6 p.m. each night until 2 a.m. the next morning. So if Mark falls asleep in the middle of his presentation, you'll know why. We're just glad to have him here. Nettie is involved in scouting, or has been involved since her childhood, when she spent summers at scout camp with her family. She's Wood Badge trained and received the Silver Beaver Award in 2020. Nettie is an avid writer, as many of you know, and blogger, and was the writer for the book Century of Honor, 100 Years of Scouting in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And we'll have a chance to hear from Nettie in just a few moments. Nettie currently serves as a bear den leader in her neighborhood Cub Scout pack. And Mark and Nettie are the parents of 10 children, ages 5 through 22, their 2 oldest sons being Eagle Scouts. Next is Wayne and Roma Bishop. Roma's scouting activity began when she married Wayne nearly 53 years ago, and he was already serving as an assistant scoutmaster. They're the parents of 5 children, 4 Eagle Scout sons and 1 Eagle Scout son-in-law, and have 20 grandchildren, 3 Eagles and more coming. Roma's been a den leader coach, was on the staff for 6 national, world jamborees, and she and Wayne have served on Philmont Latter-day Saint faculty a total of 26 times. Unbelievable. She's a recipient of the Silver Beaver, Silver Antelope, and Philmont Master Track Award. Wayne has been an avid scout and scouter for over 60 years. He's been a scoutmaster, a varsity coach, and Wood Badge course director. He served on the executive boards of 2 different councils as council commissioner, council president, and is currently the Western Region Assistant Commissioner. He served as a missionary, bishop, stake, young men president in 2 stakes, and stake clerk. He's a recipient of the Silver Beaver, Silver Antelope, and the Outstanding Eagle Scout Awards. And in 2019, Wayne and Roma started Troop 947 and Pack 947 in Pleasanton, California. Gary and Laura Dollar are next. Gary and his wife Laura are the parents of 8 children and 20 grandchildren. All 6 of their sons are Eagle Scouts. Gary's served on 13 Wood Badge courses, including twice as a course director, and has received the Silver Beaver, Silver Antelope, and the Outstanding Eagle Scout Awards. One of his unique talents is hand carving Boy Scout bolo ties. He and his mentor, Bill Burtz, that many of you know, have collectively carved more than 65,000 of these bolo ties, sharing the ties and the scouting message at world and national jamborees and other scouting gatherings. Gary carves them and Laura paints them, a great team. For those of you that know Laura, you know that she's deeply involved in scouting and has been for the last 39 years. She has an infectious smile and an unfailingly upbeat and optimistic attitude. She's the recipient of the Silver Beaver Award and the Influential Women in Scouting Award. You'll love Gary and Laura, and if you join us in 2021, you'll be able to sit in the greensward and carve with them, which is really a fun thing to do. Next is Trevor Bender. Trevor and his wife Sally have 4 children. Both are Eagle Scouts like their father, both boys. They have 1 granddaughter. Trevor served as an assistant council commissioner in the San Diego Imperial Council, has been a Webelos den leader, scoutmaster, varsity coach, adventuring crew advisor, and is the chairman of the Latter-day Saints Service and Transition Team and co-author of the nationally recognized Saints and Scouts newsletter and Facebook page. He's Wood Badge trained and has received the Silver Beaver recognition. Trevor also recently helped establish Troop 2020 in Oceanside, California, where he serves as the committee chair. He's currently a high counselor in the Vista State. Next is Amy Tadlock, also from the San Diego Imperial Council, where she serves as an assistant council commissioner there, working with Latter-day Saints Scouting Transition. She served as a district commissioner on Wood Badge and NYLT staffs, as Cub Scout Day Camp director, and as a pack and troop committee member. She received the Silver Beaver Award in 2019. She has served as a stake primary president and is currently the primary president in her ward. Amy and her husband Brian have 3 boys and 1 daughter, Eagle Scout, Life Scout, First Class Scout, and Adventurer. Born in Olympia in Washington State, Amy grew to love the outdoors, hiking on the Olympic Peninsula. She learned to sail in the Strait of Juan de Fuca and earned her private pilot's license. Next is Mike and Robin Ball. Mike and his wife Robin live in Highland, Utah with their 4 boys ranging from 5 to 12 years of age. Robin served as primary president in her ward and as a den leader for 3 years. Mike served as a Cub Master, attended many Cub Scout training events, including Aquila's Council. He served as the Cub Master training at District Roundtable, as Scout Committee Chair, in a Stake Young Men's Presidency, as a District Troop Committee Chair, and as Roundtable Commissioner. Mike has received the District Award of Merit for his service to youth. After attending the Vision 2020 conference at Philmont last year, Mike and Robin came back home and organized a new community troop in their Stake area, where Mike currently serves as a Scoutmaster. Next is Matt and Rachel McKiff. You've already heard from them, and Matt and Rachel, way to go to start us out tonight. Matt and Rachel reside in St. George, Utah, as they said, and have 4 children, all involved in scouting. Mike's currently serving as the Scoutmaster for a newly formed scout unit sponsored by the St. George Rotary Club. He's served in other scouting capacities for over 10 years, including varsity scout coach, committee chair, assistant Scoutmaster in a new scout patrol, and chartered organization representative. Rachel's been involved in Cub Scouting for over 8 years on a unit and district level, has been an assistant roundtable commissioner and a member of the staff for the University of Scouting for nearly a decade. She's received the 2nd Myler Award, District Award of Merit. She's currently involved with Scouting as their unit chaplain and as a committee member. Both Rachel and Matt have been involved in organizing 3 scout units for Latter-day Saints, as well as their current community scout troop. This is after they came home from being at Philmont for our Vision 2020 training last summer. Now, I've left the last for best, at least my best, and the best cheerleader for scouting. This is my wife, Zella. When she was working on her wood badge ticket a number of years ago with our daughter, Kristen, Zella visited a district roundtable. She was recognized, brought up to the front, and asked what her current scouting assignment was. Without hesitation, she said, "I am the head cheerleader for scouting." The district chairman said, "Oh, nice to have you here." And then he mumbled to himself something like, "I wonder if there's a patch for that." Her mother passed away actually when Zella was born. She was not raised in a scouting family. She was raised by 2 wonderful, loving grandparents, and then had 5 daughters. So when I received my wood badge beads in 1982 at Camp Maple Dell, as we walked out of the beading ceremony, we were all alone, and she said, "You know, it's amazing to me what a grown man will do for a bead or a feather." And somebody added after that, "or a patch." And Mike, I think you have a picture of the patch that Zella has. Zella's not with us on the faculty this weekend, although she is tuned in tonight. But if you join us on July 3rd through 10th, 2021 at Philmont Scout Ranch for our Vanguard International Training for Latter-day Saints Scouting Leaders, you will know just what I said is really true. And I'm the course director for this virtual course, and I'm blessed to be with you for this World faculty. Now, we have a wonderful opportunity now to hear from Nettie Francis. We thought we'd start this program out with looking at the history of the relationship between the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the Boy Scouts of America. So Nettie, before we begin, I think we ought to give something away, don't you?
I think that sounds great, Charles.
I have got a belt buckle here from a World Scout Jamboree. It's actually a commissioner's belt buckle for the very first person that can go on to the chat channel. And Rachel, I'm going to have you watch for that and tell us where the World Scout Jamboree was in 2015. And we'll find out who the winner is later. And Rachel, if you communicate back. Oh, we have a winner already.
That was quick.
That was great.
Jennifer Allred.
Jennifer Allred, thank you very much. Jennifer, if you would provide your mailing address for us, we'll get this belt buckle to you. And it's actually one that that I'm wearing tonight. It's one of my very favorites. So Nettie, we're pleased to have you with us here tonight. Take it away. Tell us a little bit about this wonderful partnership.
Well, thank you, Charles. It's so nice to be with all of you, and it has just been so much fun to see all of the names coming up as they come, as I can see who's on the call, good friends from Wyoming and Japan and Hawaii and all over the United States. So thank you for joining with us tonight. This has been great. I'm excited that for the next few minutes we can talk about the relationship between the Boy Scouts of America and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which, as you know, ended in December of this past year, on December 31st, 2019. And so you may be wondering why we still need to talk about this, but I hope that during the next few minutes, you will come to have a greater understanding of how these two organizations positively influenced each other during the past century, and how I believe they will still continue to support and influence each other in the decades to come. Tonight, I'm wearing a vintage scouting uniform, and I'm going to stand up and try and give you the full effect. This is an olive green, 100% polyester dress that was designed by Oscar de la Renta in the 1970s, when ladies were first invited to serve as scouting leaders. And if you feel like you wish you had one of these wonderful dresses, then I would suggest that you go and purchase one where I found this one, which is at the Deseret Industries. That's your best bet for finding a beautiful scouting dress. If you'll open up your workbook and take just a minute, you can go into page 6, and you'll be able to follow along here with us for the next few minutes, or also take some notes. I'm going to start with a picture of Philmont, because of course we're all wishing we were there at Philmont tonight. This is my sister and I when we did a mountain trek in 1988. That was when I was young, and I remember that week up in the Philmont backcountry changed my life. Our family went to Philmont again, my husband and I, when we had 3 young children. That was another memorable summer. I remember our baby cried all night, every night in Tent City. And then again, we went back with our children in 2012, and we've been back at Philmont every single summer since. And I would hope that next summer, many of us can, of course, be back at Philmont Training Center again. If you haven't been there, be sure to take any opportunity that you have to go. As we go through the evening tonight, I want to tell you that I'm speaking as a scouting historian and also a member of the church. And most of what I share today will be from the book Century of Honor. I hope many of you have a copy of this book. This was compiled in 2013 at the request of David Beck, who served as the Young Men General President at the time. And it was brought together in a period of just 9 months by a panel of scouting and historians with a lot of wonderful miracles. At the turn of the 19th century, in the early 1900s, church leaders were very concerned about young men because they were, quote, softening up. Sounds familiar. And so the church regulated priesthood quorums and duties for the first time by age. They also built the Deseret Gymnasium in downtown Salt Lake City. And they decided that if they could combine activities and athletics with church meetings during the week, they had a better chance of retaining youth and helping those youth to grow up to be good, strong youth. Of course, across the ocean at this same time, Baden-Powell was writing his book, Scouting for Boys, and experimenting on Brown Sea Island with his methods of scouting. A copy of his book made its way across the ocean to Thomas George Wood, who is a young Deacons Quorum advisor living in the Waterloo Ward in Salt Lake City. Brother Wood wrote in his journal that he had 50 young boys who were, quote, noisy and not easy to manage. I think some things about deacons never change. Well, one day when Brother Wood was out hiking, he went up in the mountain and he said that he had the strong impression that the answer to the problems of his noisy deacon quorum were to start a scouting unit. And so with permission from his bishop, he started the Waterloo Ward Scout Troop. Within just a few meetings and with learning their scout skills, he said the boys were fully engaged and excited about the activities of scouting. They started hiking and camping and learning skills. And it became so popular in his ward that other wards also started scouting units. This is a beautiful picture of scouts up in Cottonwood Canyon near Salt Lake City. Scouting continued to become quite popular. And Thomas George Wood, our first scoutmaster, is actually the great uncle of Stephen Owen, our immediate past Young Men General President. I like to think of Brother Owen and Brother Wood as bookends on the LDS BSA history because of the influence they both had on this relationship. Scouting became so popular that in 1911, the church organized their own scout group, calling it MIA Scouts. And here's a picture of those scouts on the steps of the administration building in Salt Lake City. I also love seeing the MIA Scout ideals right next to the Scout Law in the Handbook for Boys, 2011. And here's another picture of MIA Scouts camping at This Is the Place monument before there was the big statue there. So scouting continued to be popular. However, church leaders noted that their youth were still going out to join BSA troops because they wanted the national recognition and the awards. And so John Taylor, the athletic director for the church, reached out to the BSA. Their national commissioner, Samuel Moffett, was traveling in the Western states, and he agreed to meet with the church athletic board in the Deseret Gymnasium in early January 1913. Some of the key members of that board, you may recognize them in this picture: Oscar Kirkham, Heber J. Grant, Bryant S. Hinckley, and others. They started a correspondence with James E. West, who was back in New York City. And in fact, when we were writing this history in 2013, we miraculously discovered some of those original letters between the church and the BSA. They were kept in the files of Oscar Kirkham, and that was a miraculous find. I remember that year. Finally, with the permission of Church President Joseph F. Smith, on May 21st, 1913, the official charter was signed, and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints became the first charter partner with the Boy Scouts of America. So that's 107 years and 1 week from today, a historic time. The rest is history, as we know. The church and the BSA became working together as partners. One of the first ways that the church influenced the BSA was through long-term camps. First, long-term camps were established in Utah in the Grant Stake in Salt Lake City, then Camp Kiesel east of Ogden, 1926, operated by S. Dilworth Young, who later became a 70. The Trailblazer program was introduced in 1925 for 10 and 11-year-old boys. Here you can see a scout band on Temple Square. This is one of my most favorite pictures from this history. The Zion's Boys program for 8 and 9-year-olds in 1928. And in 1929, after consulting with church leaders, the Cub Scout program followed. The Vanguard program was established for older boys, ages 15 through 18. This was in the church, and the new organization that you'll hear about tonight bears that name, Vanguard. 5 years later, the BSA requested to use the same program. They called it Exploring, and the church changed their Vanguard program to Exploring in 1935. This is a beautiful picture from Independence Rock in Wyoming. This is a camp out there to celebrate 100 years of church organization in 1930. And if you look closely at this picture, you'll see George Albert Smith and James E. West both attending that historic event. 1935, National Jamboree was scheduled to be held in Washington, D.C. to commemorate the 25th anniversary of the BSA, but interestingly enough, a polio epidemic forced the postponement of the event until 1937, similar to what we're experiencing this year, of course, with the worldwide pandemic. LDS boys, many still decided to go back east because they were already planning on it, and you can see some scouts here camped at the Hill Cumorah and the Smith Farm in Palmyra. And thanks to our faculty member, Wayne Bishop, we also have that beautiful image of the train card that his dad was given so that Jamboree Scouts that year could use the trains across the United States. Church leaders have been heavily involved in scouting from the beginning. This is Heber J. Grant with International Scouts at the 1937 World Scout Jamboree. George Albert Smith, 1931, appointed to the Boy Scout National Executive Board Church, the first Utah, first church leader, and one of 4 apostles to have held that position. Here he is with International Scouts, 1947 encampment. This is the Place Park where the monument was unveiled by Scouts. When David O. McKay served as president of the church, the Cub Scout and 11-year-old Scout programs were introduced into the primary organization. And at President McKay's request, the Mormon Relationships Office was established in Salt Lake City. In 1950, there were 9 Mormon relationships directors, ending with my husband, who closed the office at the end of this last year. Sister Parmalee was the primary president, and during her time, Cub Scouts and 11-year-old Scouts were established, and Cub Scouting, under her direction, mothers were more involved in Cub Scouting and Boy Scouting, thanks to her work. She was the first woman to serve on the BSA National Executive Board and also the first to receive the Silver Buffalo Award. Sister Parmalee was a great example. President Benson, a young Scoutmaster in Whitney, Idaho, when he was just 18 years old, an assistant Scoutmaster. Here he is with his scouting sons. I believe that's Reed Benson on the left. And here he is at a jamboree. President Benson also served on the National Executive Board, and he loved international scouting. These are Eagle Scouts in Colonia Juarez receiving their awards. And in Tonga, more Scouts in Tonga. Here's some Scouts in Germany, thanks to the influence of Elder Benson at the time. Here's President Hunter. He was the second Eagle Scout in the state of Utah, and to date, he's been our only Eagle Scout who's been a prophet. He's also a distinguished Eagle Scout. Now, if Elder Holland or President Oaks become the prophet, they will also be presidents of the church who are both Eagle Scouts and distinguished Eagle Scouts. Here's a picture of young Gordon B. Hinckley. Of course, his dad, Bryant, was instrumental in the 1913 affiliation of Scouting in the church. President Monson replaced President Benson on the BSA National Board in 1969, and when President Monson passed away, he was the longest serving member of the board. If he had lived one more year, President Monson would have served 50 years on the National Executive Board. What a record. In 2016, they broke ground on the Thomas S. Monson Leadership Excellence Complex at the Summit Bechtel Reserve in West Virginia. This is a beautiful picture of 75 years of scouting celebration in the Tabernacle on Temple Square. And of course, in 2013, 100 years of scouting in the Conference Center on Temple Square. We couldn't talk about the church influence in scouting without also mentioning Philmont. We have a beautiful LDS chapel at Philmont, and the statue at the entrance to Philmont was carved by sculptor Peter Philrup, who is a member of the church. And the priesthood leadership conferences on scouting lasted for 54 years at Philmont before they ended in 2017. I love this picture of the first faculty there, 1963. You can see third from the left, Sister Parmalee there in her dress and heels and nylons. She's my hero for traipsing around PTC in her heels. More pictures of LDS families at Philmont Training Center, one from 1972, these ladies there. I just love these old photographs. In 2016, the entire primary general presidency came to Philmont and spent 2 weeks there. And all 3 of these ladies mentioned that this was a very pivotal time for them in their service in the church. Of course, Sister Jones in the middle, Sister Corden on the right, Sister Bingham on the left. They're now all the presidents of our church women organization, which is very historic. They love their time at Philmont. Our current young men general president, this is Steve Lund and his wife Colleen, wonderful couple. They spent 2 summers at Philmont. Brother Lund is a very good friend to scouting. At Latter-day Saints, we can continue to influence Philmont, of course, as we attend this little Philmont this evening and next year when the conferences are back in session. Elder Holland spoke 2 years ago in 2018 at the BSA National Annual Meeting. And I love what he said. Elder Holland said, "This is not a divorce. We are friends now and we will be friends forever. My sons are Eagle Scouts, and I hope my grandsons and great-grandsons become Eagle Scouts." I love that quote. We will be friends forever. That's something that we can hang on to. Brother Doug Holmes from the past Young Men General Presidency also said about scouting in the church that we have moved from an institutional partnership to an individual partnership. That means we each have an individual choice if we're going to stay in scouting, and because of that, we can continue to have influence in scouting. Just on a closing note, I'd like to share personally how scouting has touched our family. These are our friends, Hans and Inge Wittke, who first became acquainted with my dad in 1963. Hans was the leader of scouting in Germany, and our family met at them again last summer. That relationship now spans 3 generations because of scouting, very dear friends that we have there. And like I said before, we can continue moving forward with an individual relationship with scouting and an opportunity to influence people all around the world. I am convinced that it was absolutely the right thing for the church and the BSA to part ways, because first of all, the church needed a worldwide program, and secondly, the BSA needs Latter-day Saints who are all in and who choose scouting. We can now fully embrace the entire programs of the BSA, and we can be a great force for good wherever we go. This book, Century of Honor, I can show you that again. We do have about 25 copies left online at vanguardscouting.org. If you don't have a copy, I would highly recommend that you get one. It's full of even more beautiful images and stories and quotes than I was able to share this evening. And so it was printed on the church presses, and it's just a quality item. I suggest every scouting home have one. Also tonight, I am very excited to announce that the final chapter of LDS Scouting from 2013 through 2019, which is written as a sequel to this book, will be published this evening as a blog at vanguardscouting.org. And within the blog, there are links to other articles written during the last 7 years and photographs that highlight this final chapter of LDS BSA history. Again, that will be published right after I close this evening. I would hope as we move forward that we will always show gratitude and respect to our friends in both the church and the BSA, and that we will continue to give validity to both organizations, even though the partnership has ended. Immediately after my presentation, we will enjoy a musical tribute to the LDS BSA history, which is also available at vanguardscouting.org tonight. And following the video, we'll turn the time back over to Charles Dahlquist and Mark Francis. I'd just like to close now with the words of President George Albert Smith, who said, "I feel grateful to the Lord that Robert Baden-Powell was impressed. May I say inspired to give scouting to the world." Thank you very much, and please enjoy now this musical tribute to the LDS BSA.
That was a wonderful program. Thank you, Nettie, for that presentation and that stirring film clip. I loved watching that. Mark, there was something that Nettie said that I think is pretty important, and that is Howard W. Hunter was the second individual in a particular state. I heard her say Utah, but I don't think so. And I'll bet you got a Century of Honor book that we could give to somebody for the very first one to tell us which state President Howard W. Hunter was the second Eagle Scout in.
There's already tons of answers, Charles. Yep.
I'll bet there are. I'll bet there are.
Mike needs to give me permission to have my video turned on, Charles.
Okay. Mike, can you give him permission for that?
You betcha. Let me look at this. Let's see. Is that Nettie or is Mark?
That's
It's
Mark.
Okay, we got.
There we go. Hello, everyone.
Okay, you all set?
We're all set, Charles.
And let's see, can you see the PowerPoint that we've got up?
Yes.
Okay, that'll be great. Well, Mark and I are here to talk about the Vanguard Scouting, International Scouting Association. Many of you have already heard it. You've seen the emails. You were with us during Scout Week in February as we announced the Vanguard International Scouting Association. Mark, I think it's important if maybe we started out answering the question why it's important to have an organization like Vanguard after January 1st, 2020. Would you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, thank you, Charles. As we all know, and as Nettie clearly articulated, there were a lot of reasons why the church felt like they needed to separate from the Boy Scouts of America. But what we need to recognize is the church is consistent wherever you go in the world, except for the young men and the young women's programs. So it was clearly necessary for them to be able to have that program available, to start their own program that would be consistent worldwide. But then this left a gap because there are a lot of Latter-day Saints that love scouting. And without having an umbrella to be able to rally under, we just felt like we would lose way too many. So many of us, including Charles and a whole team of other individuals, got together and felt like we need to organize an association to be able to create something to hold us together as Latter-day Saints. And hence the Vanguard International Scouting Association was created.
Thank you, Mark. And it was designed as an independent organization, not church-sponsored, representing Latter-day Saints in scouting, scouters worldwide, and also funded by membership fees and donations and not by the church organization. We have a wonderful, top-notch board. Mark, would you just mention members of the board here? Introduce them to our participants.
Yes, thank you, Charles. We have an incredible board made up of individuals from across the nation who have been heavily involved in scouting for many years, and several of which also serve on the national board of the Boy Scouts of America. Wayne and Christine Perry from Medina, Washington. Wayne Perry is the former president of the Boy Scouts of America. Todd Moody from Las Vegas, Nevada, former Area 6 president. Lyle Knight in Billings, Montana, currently serves on the National Executive Board of the Boy Scouts with Wayne Perry. President Gordon Gee, who serves as the president of West Virginia University, also a national board member. Myself, I'll soon to be in Okinawa, Japan. Jake Nickel, the current Western Region Area 2 president, and of course, our good friend, Charles Dahlquist.
Thank you very much. Some of you may wonder what the principles and the guides are for what Vanguard International does. We're not going to talk about all of these, and we have a long list of activities. This PowerPoint will be on the Vanguard website. But Mark, I'd like you to talk about number 2, if you would, encouraging membership in an affiliation with Scouting. I think it's important to know what Vanguard maybe doesn't do.
Yes, Charles, thank you very much. And it's certainly our hope that many, many Latter-day Saints will stay involved in scouting worldwide. But what we need to clearly understand is that Vanguard is not a charter organization. We will not establish units like the church did previously. Our goal, one of our main goals, as you can see here on this slide, is to encourage Latter-day Saints involvement in scouting wherever they live. Whether that's here in the United States, whether that's in Japan or Canada, wherever. We want to strengthen national scouting organizations.
Thank you, Mark. That's very helpful. There's some other things that we will do. One of them is some jamboree work. And Mark, what has the church done, and what will Vanguard do in the next jamboree?
I'm so excited about this, Charles. As many of you know, we have had a strong representation at jamborees, national and world jamborees, for many, many decades. Earlier in Nettie's presentation, she showed beautiful photos of prophets and apostles who have attended those jamborees. Well, we plan to continue to have a strong presence at these jamborees. A couple of our main functions will be to provide chaplains that are members of the church to serve in that important role of chaplaincy. We'll also have an exhibit focused on the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We'll work closely with the church. We'll work closely with local leadership of wherever the jamborees are held, so that we can make sure that we're following all church policies and procedures. And then, of course, we'll coordinate for any necessary church services and family home evenings at those jamborees.
You know, there may be those of you who are out there who are wondering if can I be involved in the jamboree? And the answer to that is, of course. We're going to be talking about a number of things. We've already talked about Philmont 2021, which will be on the week of July 4th, which is a wonderful time to hold a Philmont conference. It'll begin the 3rd of July. We hope that you'll register for that. Registration will be open shortly. But also, if you're interested in serving as a chaplain or helping us in the exhibit or in other ways at the 2021 Jamboree, we would love to have you let us know. There will be a registration area that will open up within the next month or so. So keep watching the Vanguard's scouting.org site. Now here's some additional activities that Vanguard will be involved in. We're not going to go through all of those. But Mark, why don't you talk about, this is the one that some have actually come here tonight for, and that is to find out about this religious award. And we are really excited about this award, but we're going to skip that one for a minute.
Yes,
Mark,
please.
why don't you talk about this one, and that is the conference at Philmont Scout Ranch.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Charles. Charles has mentioned this several times, but we're certainly hopeful that many of you will have a desire to join us at Philmont. Our intent is that every single year moving forward, we will have a conference at Philmont. It will be under the direction of the Vanguard International Scouting Association, but it will be a wonderful opportunity for us to fellowship together. And our hope moving forward is that we'll also have our friends from other countries join us. It won't be exclusive for those in the Boy Scouts of America, but it will be for everybody that is involved in the Vanguard International Scouting Association.
When we announced Vanguard International Scouting Association in February, on February 8th, we mentioned that there were 3 classes of membership: charter membership, lifetime membership, and an annual membership. And we're not going to highlight all of those, but Mark, why don't you mention the charter membership and what comes with charter membership, which is a $500 cost. And it's amazing to me how many have already signed up as charter members. I'm just so thrilled.
Yes, and I am thrilled as well, Charles. As you can see on your screen there, we wish and desire to give you some wonderful gifts for those of you who desire to be a charter member. You can only be a charter member during this calendar year. At the end of this calendar year, this will no longer be an option. Your only option will be to join at the lifetime membership. But we felt strongly that we recognize those who join as a charter member with some very special items so that they can help promote this as we move forward. A beautiful certificate that will be suitable for framing, a lifetime membership in the Vanguard International Scouting Association, a limited edition patch, which have arrived. They're beautiful. We can't wait to share those with you. In fact, tomorrow, during my presentation, I'll hold up some of those patches so you can see what they look like. A beautiful book called Be Prepared. neckerchief, a beautiful white neckerchief similar to the one I have on now, except it will have a gold border around it and it will have the Vanguard logo on the back, as well as a bolo tie similar to the one I'm wearing here. You can see that. Thanks to Gary Dollar, has carved some beautiful bolo ties. It won't be similar to this, it will be just like this. So all charter members will receive this beautiful bolo tie. And then of course, subscription to our newsletter, which will be called The Lighthouse. But I want to make something very clear, Charles, and I sincerely apologize to all of those who have already signed up as charter members. We are keeping very good records, and I know who all of you are, and I've emailed you all several times. But with the effects of COVID-19, as we all know, it's affected every aspect of our lives. It's also affected our ability to get the products in that we promised you. So please be patient with us. We should have the rest of the products here shortly, and then they will be in the mail for you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Mark, I think it would be nice to be able to give away one of those bolo ties. Actually, I have one. I know Gary's got a whole bunch of them, but I have one now that has the Vanguard logo on it. And I think the very first one that could tell there was a slide in Nettie's presentation with President Benson at a jamboree. The very first one to tell the year and the location of that jamboree will get the very first, actually you've got the first, but the very first Vanguard International bolo tie. So that's the year and the location. President Benson went there and it was an unbelievable jamboree. I was there. So,
hey, Charles, let me mention one more thing before we go on to the exciting part about the awards, and that has to do with our partnership with the World Organization of the Scout Movement. All of you on your uniform notice that you have this emblem right here. This is called the World Scout emblem, and what that means is that we, the Boy Scouts of America, are part of the World Organization of the Scouting Movement. And if you look at your screen, you'll see our logo of Vanguard International Scouting Association. We, as an association, are also part of the World Organization of the Scouting Movement. We are an official part. That's why we are able to put that logo on our emblem. So I just wanted to share that with you because that's significant. The other thing I want to share is that all other major world religions have an association. The International Forum of Jewish Scouts, the International Union of Muslim Scouts, the International Conference of Catholic Scouts. So this is not a new idea. It's not something that we've created on our own to try to protect ourselves, but we're in complete alignment with all other world religions. So wanted to share that. Back to you, Charles.
You know, another thing that is important to understand is there are 11 world religions that are recognized by WOSM, the World Organization of the Scouting Movement. 11 in all of the world, and all the Protestant churches are very good friends. They're all put together as one, but one of those 11 is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so as we have worked with WOSM, and Mark and I met with them at the World Scout Jamboree, and we've been in contact with them. We have received authorization to continue that relationship, and we are thrilled at the opportunity to continue to work with WOSM on behalf of Latter-day Saint Scouters. So Mark, let's turn to the Religious Award. And if you could just read, it's important to understand why a Religious Award is so important for Latter-day Saints. Could you just read that portion of this quote that's in black?
Yes, there is no religious side of the movement. The whole of it is based on religion. That is, on the realization and service of God.
Now that's from Baden-Powell, our founder. And so we are pleased to introduce to you tonight 2 religious awards. And we're going to start with the Religious Award for Cub Scouts. And I can't think of anybody that is better to introduce this award than the one that has served on so many Philmont staffs, who was on the committee to develop this award, and is on our faculty, Roma Bishop. So Roma, why don't you take a few minutes and tell us about your process and your feelings as we went through this, And let's introduce this brand new award for Cub Scouts, Latter-day Saint Cub Scouts.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. When Charles asked originally if I would introduce this Younger Youth Award for the Religious Award tonight, I actually told him no. I said, Charles, I can't even think about that experience without getting emotional. How do you expect me to tell about it? But in case you don't know, it's pretty hard to say no to Charles Dahlquist. As my husband Wayne and I participated in the National Transition Task Force, various committees worked over several months to find lots of good ways to help those scouts and scouters who had been registered in Latter-day Saint units to help them transition to other charter partners. And then last fall, Charles asked us and Mark and Nettie if we would give some thought to what requirements for new religious awards for younger and older youth might look like. Wayne and I have been involved in faith and beliefs areas at several different national and world jamborees. And we knew that there was a major religious award for all the religions. And it seemed critical that there be an award that scouts who are members of our faith could earn. The scout's first responsibility is duty to God, and it's only appropriate that there is some recognition for their fulfilling that commitment. And so over a couple of months, we exchanged emails and drafts, and we bounced around new ideas and concepts and refinements of the draft. I'm excited to present to you tonight the new religious award for younger scouts, and it is called the Light and Truth Award. Charles, do you have a picture of that?
It's up.
Okay. It was a very tender and spiritual experience for me in regard to the name of this Cub Scout Award. After working on the requirements for several weeks, and we discussed it back and forth, and we'd rejected many different names along the way, we continued to revise and rethink. And then one morning, we got an email from Charles, and he said he had an imminent meeting and he needed a good draft of the Younger Award that he could take with him. And that, of course, meant that it needed a name. So I just quickly typed in the name Light and Truth Award, mainly as a placeholder, and hit send. And later that day, I pulled out my scriptures so that I could read more specifically about this scripture that had come to mind. And I'll pull up my scriptures here now. But I read in Doctrine and Covenants, section 93, verse 36, where this comes from. The glory of God is intelligence, or in other words, light and truth. But then I continued to read on, and the next several verses talk about how light and truth forsake evil, and the wicked one seeks to take it away from the children. And then verse 40 confirmed to me that we had made the right choice, quote, "But I have commanded you to bring up your children in light and truth." Both the Light and Truth Award and the Award for Older Youth and Leaders contain 6 areas of focus. These are building faith and testimony, living the gospel, family relationships, missionary preparation, church history and church organization, and service. Now, in each of these areas of focus, there are specific requirements and electives which are age appropriate, and they are all geared to encourage lifelong habits rather than just be a one-shot project. Now, you may remember that it was advertised that these new religious awards were going to be announced the first part of February, actually along with the Vanguard Association. Due to what we then saw as an unforeseen and regrettable delay, that was not able to happen. But it was interesting to us, however, that when President Nelson read the new church proclamation, the restoration of the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ, in General Conference just last month, an additional requirement was able to be added to these new religious awards. Youth of the church will now study this newest proclamation along with the proclamation on the family and the living Christ. There are also other requirements and electives that will take them into For the Strength of Youth, True to the Faith, and Preach My Gospel. And of course, the requirements and electives for both awards will help us all delve deeper into the scriptures and the Come Follow Me lessons. I'm so grateful for the experiences that we had while we were preparing these awards, and we pray that they will be a blessing in your lives and in the lives of the youth we serve. I'll now turn the time back to Charles, who's going to tell you about the other religious award, which can be earned by both older scouts and adult scout leaders.
Thank you very much, Roma. That was just right, just what we needed. You may wonder, how come Roma didn't go into the specific requirements? It's because, number one, we don't have time. Number two, tonight, closely after this meeting, it will be up on the Vanguard International or vanguardscouting.org website, and you'll be able to see all of those requirements for both the Light and Truth Award as well as for the award for older scouts and adults. So Mark, let's introduce the next award. Is Mark muted?
Yep, I'm muted. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
I'm so excited to have the opportunity to introduce this next award. This award is called the Vanguard Award. Charles will show it on the screen, and I'll hold one up here. It's a beautiful medallion that young people will be able to wear with great gratitude for the things that they'll be able to learn as they work through this recognition. Several questions have come in through the chat line, and let me just address a couple real quick. This has been approved by the Boy Scouts of America. So anybody who earns the Youth Award or the Adult Award will be able to wear the religious knot. And also, this is for all young men and young women, boys and girls. So we're so excited that it will be inclusive for all of our children to be able to receive.
Now, Mark, why 2 awards on the slide?
Okay, thank you, Charles. The first award you see there, that looks like this, is for the youth. This is for youth ages 11 to 17, boys and girls. The other award looks like this. It's actually a yellow ribbon instead of a green and gold. So a yellow ribbon. This is the Adult Award. It's the same image on the, it's actually a little different because it says Vanguard above it. But that's why we have 2 different awards. And these awards mirror the, some of this, there's several similarities with the Vanguard Award and the Light and Truth Award. There's 6 categories. Charles will show those up on the screen: building faith and testimony, living the gospel, family relationships, missionary preparation, church history and church organization, and service. And as you notice there on your screen, each one of the areas also mirrors one of the elements of the Scout Oath or law.
And then, Mark, we also have the requirements and electives. And we think that when you look at those specific requirements, you will really be excited. Each one of these areas of focus has generally 3 requirements and 1 or 2 electives. And it will give an opportunity for a young man or a young woman to really get closer to our Heavenly Father, to build faith, and to understand who they are as a son or a daughter of God. I remember Rex Tillerson was once speaking about his experience as a boy earning his, what was it, Mark, God and Country Award, or whatever the religious award was. He said that he worked for months and months with his pastor earning that award. And this isn't something that they just move through and check things off quickly. Elder Maxwell once said, in the church, all of the easy things have been done. From now on, it's high adventure. Our youth need to learn how to do hard things, and this will help them to be able to really feel good about their achievements. And so we're excited to be able to do this. Now, we have some questions that have come up. And Amy, what questions do we have that Mark and I can respond to? We have just a couple of minutes. And what we don't answer today, some have already been answered online. but we also have a question and answer at the end of the day tomorrow. So what questions do we have?
And a workshop tomorrow, Charles.
And oh, that's right. And a workshop tomorrow where Amy Tadlock is going to be going through some of the specific requirements. That's another of the reasons why we didn't go into those tonight. So, Amy Hutcherson, what questions do we have?
Hello. Can you hear me?
We can.
Awesome. So one of the questions that came through the chat feature or the Q&A is, do my scouts need to become members of the Vanguard International Scouting Association in order to earn the religious award?
Mark, do you want to touch base on that?
Yes, Charles. No, they don't have to join Vanguard International Scouting Association. Any young person or adult can work on this award.
Fantastic. Who presents these awards to those that earn them?
I'll touch base on that one, and that is when a young person meets all of the requirements, and they have a little a progress tracker on the back of a card, and also the progress tracker will be on the one on the website. They can print it off there. They can keep track. Once they do, they can go back into vanguardscouting.org and download their application. The application will then be completed and sent in either by regular mail, or it can be scanned and sent in digitally, and then it will be awarded at their local scouting activity.
Fantastic. What about the youth that are in venturing, 18 to 20? Will they earn the youth or the adult award?
The youth award is, that actually, they can probably go in between. They could do either one because it's the same award. But I would guess that once they hit the venturing age, probably 18, they become adults, and then get the adult award.
Yeah. Let me make a clarification here.
It's a good question, though.
If a young person earns the Vanguard Award prior to their 18th birthday, then when they become an adult, they would have to do the requirements a second time to be able to earn the adult ribbon. It's not retroactive. They have to do it as a youth and then again as an adult.
Okay. And someone says, can they get some commentary on the On My Honor and the new requirements since the duty to God was ended? I think they're talking about the correlation between the two.
I think that, let me give that a first cut, and then Mark, you can add some things. And that is, you know, the On My Honor Award is basically discontinued, as is the Faith in God Award, which were church awards. If individuals are still working on that award and their bishops want to give that to them, that would be completely up to them. That's a church issue, and I suppose they can keep doing it until they run out of awards. If a bishop has a stock of awards, which they were able to do in his cabinet, I suppose he can keep doing that. As far as the Duty to God Award, that is also a church award, and that was discontinued. Mark, I think there was a date that the church gave.
I think it was March 1st or March 30th.
Something like that. So basically that time has passed. On the other hand, if a bishop felt that he wanted to give that award, that's up to that bishop. That's a church issue. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Paul asks, if you earned the church award years ago, can you still earn this award?
Absolutely. In fact, we would encourage them to do that. You'll find that this is a very, very different award than any Duty to God Award or On My Honor Award or Faith in God Award has ever been. And it's a rounded award to help an individual grow in various areas of their life. We have time for one more question, maybe?
Okay. Can non-members earn them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
We welcome that. We know that we have non-members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the units where there are mostly Latter-day Saints. And it's the same as if there is a Latter-day Saint boy, for example, or boy or girl in a troop in Texas that may be almost all Methodist. He or she would have the opportunity of earning the Vanguard Award. So,
yeah.
And so that
we have a few more, but we'll roll them over till tomorrow if you want to.
Actually, why don't we? If you've got a couple more that are critical, let's take them now, because I have a good relationship with the concluding speaker, and we'll just cut his time.
Let me interject. Amy, let me interject real quick. Two things that I've noticed that came through the chat that I want to mention. First off, anybody that wants to work on these awards, your work begins today. It's not something that you did last week or last month or last year. And when you read through the awards, you'll know what I mean. So it's not something you've done in the past. This is what you're doing starting today, moving forward. So it's going to take you quite a bit of time to finish any one of these awards. The second thing is you do have to be a member of Scouting. You have to register in whatever country that you live in. You have to be a registered member of Scouting in order to earn these awards.
Fantastic. There's a couple questions too about the tracking procedure in Scout Book. We may have to get back on that, but I think that'll be updated soon. Is that right, Mark?
Yeah, it will. Hadn't thought of that yet, but yes, we'll make sure it gets updated.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity to have been with you tonight. It's been a great opportunity, and we certainly will look forward to having any other questions that you might have during our question and answer next week, or tomorrow, actually. So Matt and Rachel, we'll turn the time back to you. Could I just mention before we do that, we hope that each one of you will take an opportunity to earn this award. We're starting to work on that award as well. We'll be working on it as well. We had it for the adults and the youth so that adults and youth could work on it together. Parents could work on it with their children. They will need to be registered in Scouting, but it'll be a good opportunity to do some things together as a family. So we're looking forward to strengthening the faith of all of those involved in Scouting through these two wonderful awards. God bless you as you continue to work on those Scouting awards. So Matt and Rachel.
Thanks, Mark, Roma, and Charles. We are excited to have all of our youth and our leaders begin working on the Vanguard and the Light and Truth awards right away. And we look forward to the special workshop on earning these awards and how they can support our church, the church's new program for children and youth.
This has been a wonderful evening and so many good questions. Thanks to all those who have participated tonight. We remind everyone that our virtual Vision 2020 Little Philmont will continue tomorrow. We will start at 8:30 a.m. and that's Mountain Time, Mountain Daylight Time. We hope you will be able to join us for this informative and inspirational program. It will go until 4:30 p.m. Mountain Time. We will now have a closing. We'll have a special musical number, which I know is one of Charles Dahlquist's favorites. He then will be our final and concluding speaker. After his remarks, we will be favored by a special rendition of a Latter-day Saint choir, Scout choir, from the 2013 BSA National Meeting. If you notice a little background noise during the music, it's because there were about 1,000 Scouters enjoying this music and the annual Duty to God program. Following that musical number, our benediction will be given by Wayne Bishop of Pleasanton, California.
Wonderful, stirring presentation. I love that hymn. Some of you may have remembered that that hymn was introduced to the church in a priesthood meeting back in about 2006 by President Gordon B. Hinckley. Some of you may not know the backstory of that. We had been working for 6 months on a particular subject for our leadership open houses. And we had heard this song and we decided to have that as our focus all week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights, and Saturday morning, or Friday morning, we had a double quartet from Ogden sing that wonderful song. And that night in priesthood meeting, President Hinckley got up and said, I was watching BYU TV the other night, and I heard the BYU men's chorus sing a song that I'd never heard before. And then he told us about this song, and it was a wonderful feeling to hear him as the prophet, be able to talk about this great message. There was one verse that's not in our hymn book that you will note was in this rendition. It says, rise up, O men of God, the church for you doth wait, her strength unequal to her task. Rise up and make her great. And that is the task for all of us, to be able to help the youth of the rising generation to rise up, to help prepare them in all things. Now I have 2 thoughts, and my thoughts will be quick tonight. And Mike, I'm going to leave that video on Jason Shelton for another time. But I was at a meeting the other day, and I heard a poem by Billy Collins that just was extremely impressive. Let me share it with you. The other day, I was ricocheting slowly off the blue walls of this room, moving as if underwater from typewriter to piano, from bookshelf to an envelope lying on the floor, when I found myself in the L section of the dictionary, where my eyes fell upon the word lanyard. Lanyard. No cookie nibbled by a French novelist could send one into the past more suddenly. A past where I sat at a workbench at a camp by a deep Adirondack lake, learning how to braid long, thin strips of plastic into a lanyard, a gift for my mother. I'd never seen anyone use a lanyard or wear one if that's what you did with them. But that did not keep me from crossing strand over a strand again and again until I had made a boxy red and white lanyard for my mother. She gave me life and milk from her breasts, and I gave her a lanyard. She nursed me in many a sick room, lifted spoons of medicine to my lips, laid cold face cloths onto my forehead, and led me out into the air light, and taught me how to walk and swim. And I, in turn, presented her with a lanyard. Here are thousands of meals, she said, and here is clothing and a good education. And here is your lanyard, I replied, which I made with a little help from a counselor. Here is a breathing body and a beating heart, strong legs, bones and teeth, and 2 clear eyes to read the world, she whispered. And here, I said, is the lanyard I made at camp. And here I wish to say to her now is a smaller gift, not the worn truth that you can never repay your mother, but the rueful admission that when she took the 2-tone lanyard from my hand, I was as sure as a boy could be that this useless, worthless thing I wove out of boredom would be enough to make us even. When I heard that poem by Billy Collins, I thought behind the lanyard was a leader, a counselor that helped to be able to build this relationship between mother and son, and think what it meant to him to give this little lanyard to his mother. Now, I went right home and went to our cabin and pulled out my boondoggle and began crossing strand over strand over strand. And I started with the round, and then I ended up with the square, and then I ended up with a Turk's head, all because someone like you, years ago at Camp Billy Rice, taught me how to weave boondoggle. And that's the challenge for each of us today as we work with these young men and young women. Our youth must be prepared in every way, spiritually, mentally, morally, physically, with life skills to help them be prepared to develop leadership skills, to serve in foreign countries, many of them third world countries. In addition to becoming spiritually strong, which is so critical and which the church is doing such a great job doing, they need to be prepared with first aid skills, skills that help them preserve and care for the environment, skills to help them with time management and money management and personal management, with communication skills, with a love for their country and a knowledge of how to be citizens of the community and the nation and the world. They need survival skills. They need to learn how to do hard things. They need to be prepared to appreciate, care for, and survive in nature, and much, much more. Now, we have too many monomaniacs in this world, individuals that have become very, very good at one thing, but their life is in shambles the rest of it. They have never learned, or perhaps they have forgotten, those things that come so naturally to a scout. They have forgotten the principles of the Scout Oath and the Scout Law, the Scout motto, be prepared, or the Scout slogan, do a good turn daily. And they certainly haven't learned to live those basic moral principles. And so they make decisions based upon selfishness and pride. We call them fallen giants, and I will just tell you that we have too many of them. Today, we need more than ever men and women who have prepared for the challenges ahead, and they will be great. As I quoted Elder Maxwell, from now on, it's high adventure. We need men and women who by second nature are physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight, and who do a good turn daily, not because it's a slogan, but because they want to lift and love those around them. Those who live lives of duty to God, who swell with pride as the flag of the United States passes by and are involved in improving their neighborhoods, their cities, their states, their nation, and the world. In a world, we need a rising generation who are prepared and will indeed rise up. Rise up, O men of God. Have done with lesser things. Give heart and soul and mind and strength to serve the King of Kings. Rise up, O men of God, and men and women of God. The truth for you doth wait. Her strength unequal to her task. Rise up and make her great. Rise up, O men of God, in one united throng. Bring in the day of brotherhood and end the night of wrong. Rise up, O men of God, tread where his feet have trod, as brothers and sisters of the Son of Man. Rise up, O men of God. May God bless us that we may model these principles to our youth. May God bless us that as we're teaching them the boondoggle, may we teach them the deeper principles of morality, being physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. When we give a scoutmaster or an advisor's minute, may we link those things that they are learning with their hands, those wonderful life-saving skills, may we link them to basic gospel principles. When they are working on these new awards, the Light and Truth and the Vanguard Award, we pray that they will learn deeply those principles upon which this award is based. May God bless you for all you're doing. We are so grateful for your service. May he bless you and inspire you as you work with the rising generation, that you and they may indeed rise up, is our prayer tonight. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.